So now, if it is sold to another European institution, I read the outline of your plan, and you mentioned that you could get 15 billion of unused EU funds to actually enhance this package. But these are destined for Greece as a country. How could this package get those funds in order to enhance the prospects for the sell-off?
The critical element here is to invest as much money into the asset as possible for two reasons. One is to maximize the privatization value, as any surplus that we can create will flow back to Greece and enable Greece to further reduce its debt. So possibly it can be more than the 125 billion. And secondly, it is important that the money is spent in such a way that it creates demand for investment in Greece, so that it creates jobs and that it lifts the country out of the recession. That is the key element. There are two options to do this. One is to put the 15 billion into this recovery plan and to use the 20 billion as the counterfinance that have been missing so far. Another possibility is to limit it to 20 billion investment into the assets and to use the 15 billion for other infrastructure, education elements and investments in Greece, also to create demand in the country. The demand side here is the decisive point.
We're talking speculatively here, but what kind of institution would likely buy this holding company in Europe?
We have been asked this question several times in the past days, and actually it's a matter of a political decision. It could be an additional institution that could be established, like a European privatization agency. It could be something like the European Investment Bank, EIB, or the EBRD, or it could be some sub-organization of the EFSF/ESM. So there are a lot of options, but they are not relevant for the success of the program in the sense that the political decisions can be made in any direction here.
Given the history of European institutions and how well they function, wouldn't this be kind of like putting somebody totally incompetent in charge of something very important?
I wouldn't hope that this would happen. Obviously, management, how this is managed, and a number of also other side elements that make privatization a success are key to the success.
Yes.
So we wouldn't advocate mismanagement here. Our idea about this is that this organization should be European, but it should be run in its management as a private-public partnership, so to get as much private know-how of restructuring, privatization and revenue maximization in there as possible, so that we can utilize private know-how, and also that there should be a very transparent process ranging from publishing the lists of assets to publishing the bidding processes for the privatization, etc. So, and this transparency that can be created with modern technology is also something that should be then easy to make it, to put it under public scrutiny, so to say. So we are effectively not so much afraid of bad management here. There is another element, though, that will be critical for the success, and that is that Greece has to pass a number of laws to make privatization a success, to make Greece an attractive place for investment, and to effectively encourage investors to pick up those assets, and then also to do follow-up investments. The idea is not only to just privatize, the idea is to bring back fresh investment money from private investors into Greece, which will also then contribute to the growth impact of this program. And here we have in mind especially also Greek investors. There is a huge amount of Greek money that has left the country because of fears that Greece might have to leave the Eurozone, that the accounts in the country would then be devalued. By doing this program, we can take away these fears from the markets, and a lot of money will be repatriated, coming back from Switzerland, coming back from Cyprus and other places where it has been parked for the time. And this is an element that has been neglected in the past.
Now, okay, this partly answers my question about how this would create a surge in the economy, but basically they're still up in the air, this doubt that I can understand that this would very much address the debt problem. At the same time, I don't understand how it would create a growth stimulus in the economy. We're just selling things.
Well, it does create growth by investing 35 billion in assets that are placed in Greece. So the investment, effectively, there is a demand of 35 billion for infrastructure investments, logistic investments, etc. That's taking place in Greece. And even if you assume that part of that will also flow abroad again for importing certain investment goods, we anticipate that by far more than 80% of that will create demand for Greek companies to provide these services and government goods that are then being bought by this program to complete the infrastructure processes and new logistics and what you have. So this is a business case in the sense of a stimulus program that creates demand in Greece at the size of 14% of GDP. And those 14% spending on demand for investment in Greece that does not go through the state's accounts but through the privatization agency's accounts effectively is as if, for example, Germany would run a stimulus package to recover its economy from a recession in the size of 400 billion euros. Mm-hmm. So that gives you an idea of the size of what 14% of GDP means.
I understand something like this, in fact, because of the example you gave, was affected during the reunification of Germany. There was some sort of sell-off of German assets, East German assets back then. How did you come up with the idea? What gave you the stimulus to think on this?
Actually, as a senior partner at Roland Berger, I'm in charge of the risk management practice. As such, one of my largest projects at the moment is to create the European Rating Agency. And in this discussion about the European Rating Agency, we've been asked time and again by market participants and the press, what would that mean for Greece and other European countries? So we had some kind of incentive to think about that. And since a rating agency cannot save a country, it can only observe what happens in a country, we had an incentive to come up with an idea. And effectively, the core element of this idea came to me kind of accidentally. I wrote it down and discussed it with colleagues, and they found that it might work.
Would you play a part in this if it materialized?
Well, actually, at the moment, I'm playing a part in convincing European politicians to pick up on it and helping them to understand the full impact of that program. Actually, we are making quite good progress in that. We are talking to a number of European governments, and we are effectively trying to convince them that this is the right way. If I would ever play a part in such an organization is another matter. That would depend on if there is an interest in that from the politics side. But quite frankly, I'm quite happy with my job.
Oh, would you like to play a part then, I guess? Would you like to?
Well, yes, if this thing comes into being, I would certainly be available at least as an advisor.